From Relay, this is Connected, episode 524. Today's show is brought to you by ZocDoc, NetSuite, and ExpressVPN. I'm one of your co-hosts, Federico Ticci, and it's my pleasure to introduce to this program Ricky Benchman, Myke Hurley. Hello,
it's so great to be here. It's so great to be here. We have now passed the halfway, like we're past, like we're on the decline towards Stephen returning, which as I say that, I didn't mean it like that the show's going to get worse. I meant that like, if you imagine there was a midway peak, we have now passed that. Because I think we've got next week's show and then Stephen's back. So then the show, maybe it's a decline now and then Stephen returns and then the show bounces back, you know?
Right. That is a very strange way of expressing this concept.
I didn't do a very good job with that.
A decline, because you're saying it's a decline toward a happy moment.
Yes.
Which is a very strange image.
Yeah, it's a decline towards happiness, which is what we're all looking for.
Well, it's always darkest before dawn.
There you go. And so welcome to the darkness. I mean, literally today, we're going to talk about AI and the DMA. So, I'm not wrong. But both are not what you think. They're not what you think. We're not doing it in the way that you think we're doing it, but we are going to do it. But before we do it, we have some follow-up. So we were actually hoping that today's episode was going to be a Ricky's. Like that, I was hoping that was going to be what happened, and we had a whole system in place for if there was going to be a Ricky's where we were going to get OTJ to come and he was going to pick for Stephen, and I was really excited about that because I was wondering what that was going to be like. Because what I was wondering, and maybe we can ask John this. What I was wondering is, would John have actually tried to play the game, or would he try to throw the game?
I think John is an honest person. He would have played the actual
He would have played it.
Yeah.
It would have been good for me though, because if you would have won, oh boy, could I have called collusion, you know? Wow, that would have been fun for me.
Well, we don't need to think about that.
You had a whole plan, didn't you? I know, the two of you. I can hear it now. But anyway, we're not doing it because there hasn't been an event invite. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's one and it's not until November, but
no, hold on. Do you think there's going to be an event?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay, me neither.
I thought there would be. Me and Jason drafted, and I said I thought that there would be an event, but an event in the sense of just like, hey, here's a video. Like, I didn't think it was going to be a big song and dance, but just in the last couple of days, there have been some reporting, namely from Mark Gurman, basically saying that the Macs are still coming, something's still happening. Within the next week or so, the new Macs will come out, and Apple is going to be holding an event for influencers next Wednesday in LA. So my expectation now is that maybe Monday or Tuesday, there will be some press releases with some Macs. And honestly, like if we do get the Mac Mini in the way that they're saying, that the rumors are suggesting, I think it's sad that they're not going to do something, but they could just put out a little video or whatever. Like, I think of, remember the Magic Keyboard? When they announced the Magic Keyboard in like March 2020?
What did they do? What did they do with the Magic Keyboard?
Because it was March 2020. Do you remember that time? They just made a video, and it was just Craig Federighi just like showing it off.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. I
completely removed that.
Yeah,
there was a video.
It was the first one of these, like, because they didn't. I think it was like the first one. And they were just like, oh hey, here you go. You know what I mean? And they just did it.
Because there was also like all the developer documentation about it afterwards for like the hover stuff, and I had completely removed all of that from my brain.
Oh, I mean, now Zach has just reminded me that it was even weirder, which was that Apple made a video but didn't post it to YouTube, but sent the video to journalists and allowed them to post it. So Jason posted it on the Six Colors YouTube channel, and it's currently sitting at 900,000 views. So I think it did good for Jason, you know?
They had no idea what
they really didn't, though. Like, they really didn't know what they were doing at that point. Understandably, it was March 18th, 2020. Yeah. Like, it just all kicked off, basically. And so I think that they were just like, They were just doing the best they could of what they had, and then it was not just a Magic Keyboard, but it was also the fact that the iPad Pro cursor existed, right? Like it was the kind of the combo, and so they did that. That was worthy of more than just a press release.
What an exciting day, though. Like the introduction of the Magic Keyboard for iPad with the trackpad. I was so happy that day.
I think that was the day that I bought the 2020 iPad Pro like an absolute sucker and just got LiDAR and was like, I guess I had to be happy about that.
Like such a strange combination of feelings because, on the one hand, a pandemic with the lockdown, and in Italy, we really had it bad at that moment. But on the other hand, an iPad with a Magic Keyboard. So
I will say though, that time, I mean, now I don't know where we are on the podcast now, but like that time in like mid-March, they still had that thing of like, oh, this will fix it though. Like we'll just be at home for like a couple of weeks and like it will, and we'll break it, like, and then we'll be okay. And to my recollection anyway, it got to like April, May, and it's like, oh no, this is like, this ain't changing, huh? like I thought it was just going to be a couple of weeks here where we just didn't shake hands and see each other.
Little did they know last years. Anyway, so new Macs next week.
That's probably what's going to happen, right? But next week's going to be busy because we've got all the 0.1 releases next week. Apple have got earnings on Thursday, so all this stuff's got a slot in somewhere. So I don't know what we're going to get, but the expectation right now is that there will be Macs. We're going to have John on the show next week with us. We'll talk about them.
Yeah, for sure.
Joanna Stern, so again, part of all this, Apple have said that Apple Intelligence begins next week. And because the release candidate at 0.1 is out, we'll talk about it later on the show too. But Joanna Stern sat down with Craig Federighi to kind of talk about the Apple Intelligence stuff. There wasn't really anything particularly new in this, because you kind of wouldn't. But I do find it interesting at the moment to just hear them talk about Apple Intelligence. I don't know why, but this is specifically interesting to me to just hear Apple executives talk about it, because I kind of want to get my head around where they're at a lot of the time, because it's such a sticky, weird thing. And I guess the main thing that I found interesting about it is when he was talking about photos, and kind of what Apple's doing with photos and how much more the competitors are doing, I guess. And I found that interesting, saying stuff that we'd heard of before, that there was a lot of internal debate about how much they would add, and they just added catch up. But what they're not going to do is add generative stuff into photos. No, I thought it was interesting.
I got some breaking news for you.
Okay.
18.2 developer beta is out right now.
Great.
And this beta includes upcoming features powered by Apple Intelligence. I'm pretty sure this one will have our good friend, Image Playground.
So I will install this.
I am downloading it right now,
it is.
but I won't be able to use it.
You won't be able to use it. We were planning today to talk about my experiences of Apple Intelligence in iOS 18.1. So when we get to that, I will also be able to talk about the horrors of 18.2.
Myke is going to prompt Apple Intelligence to create images during the show. That's what we're going to do. Myke is going to create images.
English UK is now in here too. So I'll be able to change
now you can...
English back. So I'm going to start that. It's apparently 25 minutes to download. So I'm going to put it on the charger and we'll see where we get by the end of the show.
I'm not even sure why I'm downloading it on my phone, but hey, whatever.
There might be
changes in shortcuts. One feature for me. One change in reminders, one change in notes. Gonna make me a happy boy.
A little treat for Ticci.
A little treat. Just a little treat.
I have a question for you. So, people who listen to my other podcast, Cortex, they kind of know that this time of year is State of the Apps time. So it's where we go through all the apps that we use and also share our home screens and stuff. And so usually as I'm preparing for this time, I'm cleaning up my home screens. And I kind of did some consolidation and ended up with spots for a couple of small widgets. And I was just wondering if you had any recommendations for good and cool widgets, like good ones, cool ones, or good and cool widgets?
What do you mean good? Because
Just like
cool,
You
just
know,
like good.
just like good. Just good ones.
Just good ones.
Hmm.
Interesting. So, are you looking for something like for productivity or stuff to just because, like, I'm pretty sure that one of the cool ones that I've seen, maybe you're using it. Dark Noise is that the name of the
Okay.
app?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they have
the white noise app. Oh, yeah.
they have some pretty cool. They have some pretty cool home screen and control center widgets that are interactive and they let you start playing
Okay.
sounds from there. See, the thing that I struggle with regarding widgets is that the type of widget that I would use all the time doesn't exist. I just want to have, kind of like on Android, I think it's possible. I just want to have a widget that I click on it and I stay on the home screen, but I can type something with the keyboard.
Right.
Like, I just want to have something for quick entry. And the only way that I can do it is via a shortcut. That's the only way. I think you're unfortunately asking the wrong person because I have 0 widgets on my home screen.
Right. That's not good, then, is it?
And the ones that I do have in the today page, like a schmuck, are calendar and reminders. That's what
Okay. I don't know why you're so bad at widgets, but it turns out you're real bad at widgets. So
I am really bad at
passionate
widgets.
ones, if you have suggestions for good and cool widgets, go to connectedfeedback.com and send them in because I would like them. Because I was honestly expecting that Federico would have answers for me, but it turns out he doesn't. So connectedfeedback.com if you have suggestions for both good and cool widgets. They must be good and cool. I will give one suggestion of my own. The Vitals widget is pretty good and cool. I like
Okay.
it. It looks nice, and it's like that's good information for me to just have on my home screen. So that's a good and cool one. So if you have good and cool widgets, connectedfeedback.com. Help your boy out. This episode of Connected is brought to you by ZocDoc. Being an adult has its high points. Like you can eat ice cream whenever you want. You can leave a social occasion early whenever you want. You can eat pizza whenever you want. And you can have an early night whenever you want. But it's not all fun. You also have to do your taxes. You have to figure out what's for dinner every night. Nobody likes meal planning. And you have to make doctor's appointments. But for that one, there's ZocDoc, the healthcare app that makes adulting that much easier. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click instantly to book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare professionals across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and so much more. You can also see their actual appointment openings, choose a time that works best for you, and click to instantly book a visit. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I think that's awesome. The same-day appointments is so good. Like, if I want a doctor's appointment, I don't want to be on the phone for an hour, like in a line trying to arrange an appointment that I might have in a month from now. I want to use my phone to book it. Like, that's the way to do this stuff. And then you can just go see your doctor. They also have virtual appointments too, which is also great. So if you don't want to leave the house, you can also speak to a doctor that way. So stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/connected to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc.com/connected, ZocDoc.com/connected. Our thanks to ZocDoc for their support of this show and all of Relay. So you published your iPad mini review. So we spoke about the iPad mini last week, and in the meantime, you collected. You sent one, which you may have collected from somewhere, I don't know. And then you have also reviewed it. Not a lot to say about the product, but I think that you had a very good take on its kind of role in your life.
Yeah, thank you. And to be fair, it could have been a take about it could have been the same take for the old iPad mini.
Yeah.
It just so happened that I had this idea while thinking about the new one. But it also applies to the previous one, I guess. It's it's this idea of a third place, right? It's I thought of this old commercial for the PS2 directed by David Lynch, of all people. The idea being that there's this concept in sociology of a third place, in the sense that most people have a first place, their home, they have a second place, their work, their office, wherever they go to work. And the third places are referred to as these usually social places where people go to socialize with other people, to spend time around other people. They can be bookstores, coffee shops, bars, clubs, theaters, public parks, whatever. And with that commercial in the year 2000, Sony wanted to sort of drive home this idea of the PlayStation 2, thanks to its capabilities, it can get you all these different third places, right? Because of the boundless possibilities created by video games, you can be an adventurer, you can be a race car driver, you can be a spy, you can be, you can be whatever you want, because of you can have a variety of third places. And that's why that commercial and the other commercials in that campaign were so strange and odd, combining multiple characters, very cryptic vibe, which looked edgy and cool for the time, but that was the idea. And I was thinking about this in the context of, as people, we still pretty much function along those lines. We spend time at home, we have our responsibilities for work, and then we just hang out, usually with other people. We pass the time, we socialize with other people. And I started thinking, like, how does that translate to the tech products that we use? And so I thought of this analogy. We have our phone that is our primary device. In a way, it's our first place. We have the second place that is our computer, because that's where we do the work, right? Most people, I would say, they do their work these days on a computer, whether it's a laptop or a tablet or desktop, whatever. And then we like to spend time reading, watching movies, listening to music, podcasts, playing video games, whatever. What device do we use for that? And and then speaking from personal experience here, just like in that Sony commercial, there's a variety of third places. There's tablets. Some people have an e-reader. Others have a dedicated music player. It can be a video game console. It can be a PC handheld. It can be a Steam Deck. There's plenty of options to choose from when you want to pass the time with something digital, right? And so that's how I started thinking about the iPad Mini. I don't want to use it as an alternative to my iPad Pro. I couldn't, even if I wanted to. I don't want to use it as an alternative to my phone, because my phone has my SIM card in it, as my phone number. That's how people reach me. That's how everything else reaches me, right? I just want to use the iPad Mini as a third device, as a third place for just a handful of tasks that are just for me. Reading, usually articles, watching my YouTube queue, watching the occasional TV show, just streaming something in a device that is more comfortable than my iPad Pro and bigger than my iPhone. So that was the idea. And yeah, not that I had a lot to say about everything else, because the iPad Mini is so similar. I mean, it's literally the same chassis with just slightly different specs inside.
I mean, a lot of this job at points is finding stories about the technology that's not the technology, right? Like that's the work, right?
Yeah.
Like you could just write a very technical review about this product, and that could be the end of it. But being able to communicate something more interesting is what separates somebody who's good at this who's not, in my opinion. So I was very surprised. I mean, for this particular product, I was very surprised that anybody could have a really interesting take. But I think that you had one.
Thank you.
Just because of how similar it is, and I don't think Apple is hiding that, right? Like this product exists solely so they can have an iPad Mini that has Apple Intelligence on it, which I agree with the thinking, right? Like I agree with the thinking. I would like to see them do more. I believe they will do more, but for the time being, they just want to update this product because it is a relatively expensive product to have a better chip in it. Because there are so many other iPads that can support these features just because of the chip that they have in them. So I'm happy that they did it. The third place idea is really interesting to me, especially in the contrast of the the Sony ad that you're mentioning, because like it's more about like physical places, and you talk about this a lot in the article too, right? Of like the kind of the idea of this is like they're actually physical places,
Yeah.
but our lives have changed so much since that point, and really the devices are emblematic of social and work
Yes.
now more than ever, right? And so I guess there's something particularly interesting in the third place idea that it shouldn't really have access to any of these things. And I think it's the thing that you hear people talk about a lot, but not in these words, where they're like, I want a Kindle because it has no apps on it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I want to, the thing that every blogger has said forever in history and forever into infinity. I want a dedicated writing computer. Or similarly to like what you're doing. Like I want to set up an iPad that has different apps on it. It's like what I'm doing, right? I spoke last week about my two iPads, and one of them is set up with just a specific set of apps on it to accomplish a specific type of work, which is in a physically separated part of my studio. And like that is its own place. And I feel like I was actually journaling about this today. Like I have a different feeling when I'm working at that desk. It's actually just like very mentally healthy and invigorating for me because I'm in this different place. And just in general, in my studio, I have 3 distinct places, which is funny to think about. Well, 4 really. I have a lounge area. I have my desk where I sit and work all day. I have the desk where I record, and then I have my product design desk. So like I am definitely of the mind of like separating these things out as much as you can. And I even similarly to a point have this for some apps. Like for example, if you take like me and Steven, I message about personal stuff and we talk in Slack about work stuff and we never cross them, that is like a thing that I find to be super valuable to be able to maintain personal relationships with people that you work with, to kind of like try and separate the work and the personal a little bit. But anyway, that's just like a long way around to say like I really like that idea. Do you I mean, obviously there's more than 3 places now. I think that's the thing that has changed, right? Because we have games consoles. Some of us have like 25 games consoles.
Yeah. Some of us do.
Some of us.
Yeah.
Some of us. How is your second A.N. Odin?
Well, there's gonna. All I'm gonna say is that there's gonna be a third one.
I know
soon,
there's gonna be a third one, so that's gonna be interesting for you. But yeah, I thought it was I just thought it's an interesting idea, and it is about, I think, as our lives, our like online lives and our real lives have become so intermingled, especially in the last 5 years. Just like in general, everybody feels this way, and also like where you work may be different to where it was 5 years ago. The need to have a little bit of separation is good, and I don't think it needs to be a device though, right? Like I do think that Apple has done a good enough job now of being able to let you customize devices with focus modes and stuff like that. Like there is an element of being able to give you even just one device like a separate feel. And you can do certain things, locking certain apps off in certain focus modes and stuff like that. So you could try and create that third device on your iPhone or your iPad. But yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. I like it.
Yeah, and I think obviously there's always gonna be the tension between, I want to be able to do everything on one device and be more minimalistic with the hardware that I use, versus I just want to have dedicated devices, specialized devices, each doing what it's supposed to do. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think, and actually, I even think it's okay to change how you feel about that throughout your life. Like maybe there's a period of your life where you want to consolidate, where you want to be more minimalistic. And maybe there's another season of your life where you just want to be, you want to take the maximalist approach and be like, I want to have a dedicated device for every single thing I do and be very specialized in the computers that I use. I don't think you're supposed to. I think it's okay to be fluid in that sense with the technology that you use. And so maybe I enjoy using the iPad mini now. Maybe I won't in a year, and that's fine. I think we have gotten so, this is especially a thing in the Apple community where you're supposed to make a decision and stick with it. It's silly. It's a silly thing. Use whatever brings you joy in any season of your life, and move on if it doesn't anymore. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the podcast for it today, but I think that in general, there is a mentality that it feels like in today's society that any opinion that you make, you're bound to for the rest of your life.
No, yeah, that's so. You hinted at this in your Cortex episode, like the follow up to AI.
Yeah.
Like it's so silly. Like when the reality around you changes so quickly, why are you supposed to stay the same?
Yeah.
Right. It's silly. So
I guess social media should be ephemeral, and is the statement that I'm making, which I do believe in. I kind of think any social media should be something that sticks around forever. Thank you, Jack Dorsey, for creating that idea for us that tweets would not delete. And here we are.
Here we are. So anyway, this iPad Mini, the jelly scrolling, I cannot see. Apparently, the only person who can see the jelly scrolling is David Pierce at The Verge.
Okay. Maybe David has jelly eyes.
Maybe David should look into that. Wi-Fi 6E instead of Wi-Fi 6. Apple Pencil Pro.
I do think that. I mean, I haven't seen one of these iPad Minis yet, but I can imagine a scenario in which it is still there, but is significantly fixed, because lots and lots of displays have this problem. But
yeah,
it's mostly imperceptible. And if David's seeing it, maybe David is just more sensitive to it, like in a way that, like, you know, Stephen can't use promotion kind of thing, you know?
Right.
Maybe certain people could just see it more than others. But it does seem like, from reports from people who've had it, and also reports of conversations like Jason Snell had happened to him, that that Apple seems to have addressed it, even though they're not specifically saying as such. But hey, they've made some changes to the display controller or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that's how they answer. Yes. But yeah, I mean, right now this iPad Mini is gonna be without a case, the tablet that I keep on my nightstand.
Why not? Why no case? I like the Smart Folio a lot.
I like it, but the way I'm gonna use it, this device is not gonna travel. It's one less thing I need to, like, physical thing I need to carry about. I need to worry about, because, like, when I'm gonna read, I'm just gonna take out the Smart Folio, like, anyway. I'm just not gonna use it. So I use my phone without a case. Why should I use my iPad Mini with a case?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do think iPad cases provide utility that iPhone cases don't. But if you don't feel you need it, that's fine. Right? Like in that they can stand. You know what I mean? You can, like, stand an iPad. But if you don't need that, that's great. And then also it makes the device feel thinner if you don't have a case on it.
Exactly.
So that's nice, at least.
That's nice. Yes.
Maybe put a pop socket on it. You know, see how you feel.
I actually thought about it. You know, does it? So help me out here. Do they leave residue in the back when you stick it?
You have to stick it, like,
right. But is it like that microsuction thing, or is it actually sticky glue?
I have when I was using them stuck, they were microsuction. I don't know what they're using for adhesive now, because now I just use the MagSafe ones.
Right, but there's no MagSafe.
There's no MagSafe. So. There's no MagSafe. But I don't know. They should. I'm sure that they use the microsuction, but I don't know for sure.
I'll look into it.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by NetSuite. What does the future hold for business? Ask 9 experts. You'll probably get more than 10 answers. Some will say rates will rise or fall. Others might say inflation's going to go up or down. The only way business owners can know for sure is if someone invents a crystal ball. Until then, over 40,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, HR into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth, giving you the visibility and control that you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering peering into the future with actionable data. When you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time on what's next. I think this kind of stuff is really important. Like if you have the ability to be able to see everything you need in one place, that is significantly better than needing to sign into 20 different services. Like it's just nice to have all this stuff in one place. And also, if these things are all going into one place, you can have them learning from each other and working with each other. I think that kind of stuff is great. It's bringing together all these disparate data sources. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/connected. This guide is free to you at netsuite.com/connected. That is netsuite.com/connected. Our thanks to NetSuite for their support of this show and Relay. So, some time ago, I think it was in March, we created a new game called the EUEs, where we made a selection of picks based on what we thought could happen with the DMA. And we set this for, I think, a month in advance, and nothing changed. Yeah. None of the things that we thought could change changed. So then we were like, oh, well, we'll just kick this can down the road and score it 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Those 6 months have passed. So we're now going to look back at our predictions and see what's changed. I will put a link in the show notes to the wonderful rickies.co and rickies.net. Because they have, as they always do for all of our games, put together a list of the picks that we made in case you want to score along at home. Spoiler alert, there's only really one way of scoring any of this, and realistically, the answer is none of it is being scored in a way which is good, I suppose. So, let's go through it. So we're going to score this without Steven because this was the agreement. We had 2 rounds. We made 2 picks each. Do you want to talk about your first pick?
I said the CTF, the core technology fee, is considerably altered, especially for web distribution.
So I spent a bunch of time today, Federico. I did. Yeah. I spent some time on both of our behalf, digging through. I had a horrible morning. Digging through the support documents on the developer forums and the developer website to try and see if anything had changed of any of this stuff.
That's fun.
And so this was maybe okay. So I found an article from Julie at Mac Rumors. It's Mac Rumors, not stories. They talk about rumors, not stories. You talk about stories, not rumors. Couple of quotes. So there have been changes to the CTF. The CTF has, in fact, been considerably altered. First, independent and small developers who earn no revenue at all will not have to pay the CTF. Second, to address fears of the CTF causing outrageous fees for an app that suddenly goes viral, Apple has implemented a 3-year on-ramping process for small developers.
Okay.
So it has been considerably altered, but
not for, especially for
web distribution. There have been 0 changes that are specific for web distribution.
This is not a point.
But Federico, we're not bound by any rules.
Well, the CTF is considerably altered, especially for web distribution.
The CTF has been considerably altered. I think that's a half point.
But we don't do half points.
There are no rules for this game. We can do whatever we want. I can give you 15 points for that.
Okay.
There are no rules.
So this is half a point.
That's a half point. I say that's a half point.
Finally, I get my half point.
Yeah.
Finally.
Take your half point. You got a half point. There are no rules. We established 0 rules for this game. So I say that is a half point for you.
I've been waiting for a half point for half my life, really.
Yeah.
At this point.
I do think we used to give half points, which is why we ended up getting rid of half points.
Oh, the sweet scent of a half point.
Yeah, because there are no rules. My first pick was member of good standing, language removed. So this was the idea that for web distribution, you had to be, quote, a member of good standing in the App Store.
Is it still in there?
Yeah. Yeah, they still talk about that. So I found this today. It's currently, it says to be a member in good standing of the Apple Developer Program for 2 continuous years or more. This is one of the ones where I believe the EU has been like, you can't say that, but nothing's changed yet because they're kind of, the last that I paid significant attention to DMA stuff because I've decided to take a little bit of a mental break from that wheel because I just don't find it to be very enriching. Really, it seems like that currently the EU and Apple are in a bit of a, they just got like cracked their heads together and nothing's changed, where like the EU is like, you're in breach of a bunch of stuff but hasn't kind of like handed out anything yet. It's the last that I remember. And one of the things that they pointed to was this member of good standing thing, but nothing's changed yet. And so Apple's still saying that you have to be a member of good standing.
Okay.
So that's 0 points for me. Steven said, developers aren't required to use Apple's scary screens for alternate payments and linking out to the web for purchase. These are still in place.
Okay.
This is, I think, another thing that is still kind of being contested as to whether they can do this. But currently, in the developer documentation, they still have I think they're called PSPs, which is always funny to me.
PSP?
They're called PSPs. Okay. What is? I'm trying to find what it stands for, but I think it's like purchase.
It's my favorite console of all time.
Something. Oh no, it's PSPs are like the payment service providers, but they're like the payment service provider screens, and it still says like this app doesn't support the private and secure payment system. You're going to be going out right. So it's got all of that language in there still, so they haven't removed those. So at the end of round 1, you scored half a point.
Okay, good, nice. Round 2, my pick was Phil Schiller replaced as head of the initiative. And no,
as far as we're aware, that has not happened.
For all we know, Phil is still hanging in there at the DMA table.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, at the beginning of the year, he was giving a bunch of quotes about it. We haven't really heard anything about it since, but we haven't gotten anywhere so far.
Okay, what did you say next?
Mine is the CTF is removed for fully free apps. Which
they did that, right? We said that.
Kind of.
Half a point to you.
I think it's kind of because the language is independent and small developers who earn no revenue at all will not have to pay the CTF.
Okay, so somebody
It's
else.
fully removed in some circumstances, but not
half
all
a point
circumstances. I would agree with you. I think that's half a point, Federico.
Half a point. I love this anarchy. Half a point.
I really agree. Yes. I think this is fantastic. And Steven's round 2 was changes to rules about apps being installed from alternative source. Now, here's the thing. Steven's pick, I don't know why we allowed the wording this way, because it's like not all what he was, it does not describe what he was talking about. Today, I had to go back and listen to this part of the podcast from when he made the pick. What he was talking about was, because and it's funny because he made his pick, and then my immediate thing was to him, what does that mean? And then he explained what he actually meant. So I don't know why we just kind of let it roll the way that it did, but what he was talking about is, let's say you have Delta installed, right? And from the App Store, and you download Alt Store, and then you download Delta, that one should replace the other. That does not happen. Like what he wanted is that like apps installed from other sources could just update themselves over another app, and that seems to also have not been changed at all. And in fact, I found wording that said that like, you know, when they're talking about like what happens if you go away for a month or whatever, that you will lose your access to your applications, and you have to re-download them from another store if you move or whatever, and you may lose data. So they haven't changed that either. So essentially, the main change is that the CTF did get altered, and because of that, we both score half a point, and Steven scores 0 points.
Good. Good.
Good.
That's what he gets for being away.
That is what
no
he gets.
half points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what he
Take
gets.
that. Take that as a sabbatical. No half points. Yeah. How'd you like that now? Cool. So we won, right? Is that the conclusion?
I think so. I mean,
Okay.
and I think, let me take a look here. Did we?
So what do we get? What do we get for winning?
Nothing. But we'll both walk away with half a point.
This is the saddest victory ever. We got nothing because we got 2 half points.
There's a lot of conversation in the Discord, as you can currently imagine that these things would go, about what the actual scoring rules were for this. I don't remember setting any scoring rules.
Nah, we didn't.
I don't think.
No rules,
but whatever
no
the
rules.
scoring rules are, me and you both got half of what it could have possibly been.
Yeah, me and you, we got half of the truth.
And we will share the victory.
Yeah.
How about that? See?
This is a useless victory, to be fair, but it's still a victory. So, when you close your laptop today and you go home and you'll be on a train, you'll be thinking, man, I won something today.
It doesn't mean anything, but I won.
It doesn't mean anything, but I won.
I will say, though, like, being this far away from us making these picks, I am really surprised that nothing significant has changed in a lot of these areas.
It all kind of stopped. Now, to be honest, it's not like in Europe you can expect regulators to be working in the summer, right? Especially in Central Europe.
Okay, that's a good point. Didn't think of that.
So maybe things will pick up again before Christmas, but realistically, if it's like in Italy, you have a month before people start taking time off again. And we'll talk about it again in mid-January. We'll see.
I feel like as well that there's just like enough stuff has happened that basically somebody needs to do something now. Like someone needs to do something significant. Either the EU needs to actually fine them or Apple needs to say, screw you. Like one of these things has to happen now, I think, for there to be any meaningful actual change to this scenario. Because all it has been for like the last year or whatever is just, how about this? No. How about this? No. And that's just going to carry on forever. Like one of them needs to actually make some kind of big statement to make, I feel like, some kind of significant change. I'm not necessarily saying I want any of those things to happen, but like something significant needs to occur to move this forward. And it hasn't. I was thinking the other day, like as I tend to do, I was thinking about the 30% cut. I think about it a lot. I was just like, just imagine just like WWDC and they're like, look, we have some news. We're changing it. Like it would just, people would just be so happy, because I was thinking about the Vision Pro App Store, and I was thinking about AR glasses and like an AR App Store. And like, they need to change that dynamic. That dynamic has to change to be able to move forward. And I think if we get to a scenario where it's like there are these Meta glasses and then there are these Apple glasses, and like Meta's like, come do what you want on our store, like whatever, we're cool. Which it's not how they work right now, but they could do that if they wanted to. I think that could cause a problem. And so I just feel like they could, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I just want them to do it. I just want them to just loosen it.
That would be something to see. I don't think they're gonna do it.
No, neither do I.
Right.
But I want them to.
Yeah. Can we talk about Tim Cook using 12 different devices on a daily basis?
Yeah.
I really want to talk about this. Can you contextualize where this idea comes from?
So there was a Wall Street Journal profile of Tim Cook, which I have not read the entire thing yet. I've just been reading little bits and bobs of it so far. But there is an article on The Verge written by Wes Davis, which is also a great article because Wes tries to live their life the best that they can, like somebody who just uses every Apple product imaginable. It's a fun take on this article, but it's coming from a quote in the Wall Street Journal magazine where this is a quote from the article. While discussing his daily routine, Tim Cook told Ben Cohen in this is a combo of from The Verge and the Wall Street Journal. So
Yeah.
I'll read it from The Verge. While discussing his daily routine, Tim Cook told Ben Cohen in the WSJ magazine interview that he every day uses every product. In the story, he mentions specifically using an iPhone, an Apple Watch, AirPods, and then for work, 2 different MacBooks, an iMac, a Vision Pro, and an iPad Pro. So this is every day. Tim Cook every day uses an iPhone, an Apple Watch, and AirPods, 2 different MacBooks, an iMac, a Vision Pro, and an iPad Pro. Now,
okay, so the first half
is
is okay.
It's
think
normal.
It's fine. I also use an iPhone, an Apple Watch, and AirPods every day.
Yeah.
It's the second part of the sentence.
Yeah. Now, again, very aware of the fact that we've both said that we use multiple iPads, right? Like, so, that's on us. We're basically Tim Cook. But I don't know why you need 2 different MacBooks. I don't know what that's for.
So let's assume that you have one MacBook at home and one MacBook on your desk.
But then why are you using a laptop at all if you're not taking it with you?
The problem is 2 MacBooks plus an iMac.
Yes. Plus an iPad Pro and a Vision Pro.
Okay, so maybe the Vision Pro you're using at night. Let's just say that Tim Cook, and he said that before he watched Ted Lasso on the ceiling. I believe that was a quote from last year or this year. Where do the 2 MacBooks, an iMac, and an iPad Pro go during the day? That's what I don't understand. It's all those computers, especially because the iPad Pro maybe is walking around Apple Park holding an iPad Pro. He likes to take his walks, and he's doing email, walking, grabbing an iPad Pro as a tablet, with the pencil. But the 2 MacBooks plus an iMac, what are you doing there? So, I don't know. I think this is more of I kind of want to say publicity stunt. I don't think it's a publicity stunt, but I think it's like, yeah, sure, I use everything,
I mean, maybe. But look, you don't have to say you use 2 different MacBooks, right? Like that's the thing of like, to say like I use an iPhone, an Apple Watch, AirPods, a MacBook, an iMac, Vision Pro, an iPad Pro. Like that, fine. But like, it's the 2 MacBooks thing that I'm getting stuck on. Because I'm like, why? What are you doing though? But I love it. I love the thought of him using all these computers. I don't know why he's using an iMac. Like I kind of, why is he just not using one of his laptops plugged into a studio display? Does he use a studio display? Like I want to know more. This is the thing, like, if I was ever offered the opportunity to interview Tim Cook, right? By and large, it would be pointless. Like, let's be realistic, right? In the sense of, I might enjoy it, but everyone's going to be unhappy, right? Because I'm not going to be able to get answers to any of the questions you want. Like, I'm not going to be able to get an answer from him about the DMA, let's say, right? Like, we all know the pitfalls of these things. Like, you're not actually going to get answers to questions that the listeners want you to get, because Apple is not going to give that information willingly, right? Mm-hmm. That information is given when they choose to give it. You can't just say to them, tell me about this. People think that if you just ask these questions, you'll get answers, which is just madness, right? Like,
people have no idea. People have no idea how these interviews work.
Yeah. Like,
that's the problem.
You can ask whatever you want, but they're just going to say, I'm not going to answer that. And so, like, then you've wasted everybody's time.
Also, it's never going to be part of the interview that you see or listen to. Like, that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
And like, people have no idea.
And also, I mean, at least for me, I don't feel the need to go around making enemies of people. Like, I don't want to be combative, right? Like, I don't want to sit down with Tim Cook and then make him like annoyed at me. Like, why would I do that?
Now I am CEO of the biggest company in the world. I am going to make you willingly uncomfortable. That's what I'm going to do with my life today. And I will never be able to interview you again in the future. And that's a solid plan. Why not?
But anyway, And
Yeah,
like
but
this is why
anyway.
like I'm happy to not be a journalist, right? I ain't no journalist. I have no I was gonna say I have no ethics. That's not what I mean. I have zero ethics. No, but I'm not bound by like the journalistic code or whatever that everybody else puts their right hand on the AP style guide and their left hand to the sky and make some kind of statement. I don't know.
Do you
how it
think
works.
that's how they do? Do you think that's how Steven did it?
Probably?
Right. Okay.
Probably.
Probably.
But what I would want to ask him, like if I got the opportunity to speak to Tim Cook, I want to ask him about this, right? Like I want to go through in minute detail how he uses his products every day. Like what is he doing on them? Like what device does he pick up first in the morning? What does he do on it? Where does he do his email? Where does he send his messages? Like, and there is some of that in this article, right? Where like they're talking about the group threads. Did you catch this? He's like, oh, do
Yeah.
you ever name your group threads? He's like, oh, I can name my group threads. He's like, I have one
Yeah.
with my roommates. I've now called it
Called
roommates.
roommates.
Incredible. I that's what I want. And I do like that Ben Cohen got some of that stuff out of him. But like, that's what I want. So Apple, if you're out there and you want Tim Cook to talk about exactly how he uses all of his devices every day, call me. And that's all we'll talk about. And I tell you what, that would be the most interesting interview I could get out of the man. Like, I know that for sure. Because we'd all have a good time. We'd nerd out about like the benefits of one screen size over another. You know, it would be great. But Tim Cook is an absolute Madlad power user, is what we've learned.
I'm still thinking about those 2 MacBooks plus an iMac plus an iPad Pro. I cannot get over that, but okay.
2 MacBooks.
2 MacBooks,
2 MacBooks.
an iMac,
Yeah.
and an iPad Pro.
Yeah.
These are not 4 separate products.
Hang on a minute. He just has this one big screen that he just keeps unfolding. And he puts it in different places. Wow. That's how it works. Who would have thought it? This episode is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is a bit like driving a car without insurance. Why take the unnecessary risk? When you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, networks that you have no control over, your data may not be secure. Someone on that same network could gain access to your information, passwords, bank logins, details, your financial stuff, other things you don't want in someone else's hands. ExpressVPN stops hackers from stealing your data by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. There are tons of reasons to choose ExpressVPN over other VPNs. It's super secure. It would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. It's easy to use. You just fire up the app, click one button, and you're protected. And it works on all your devices, your phones, laptops, tablets, and more, so you can stay secure on the go, and it has been rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. I have ExpressVPN on all of my devices. I love it on my Mac because it's in my menu bar. I just click 2 buttons and I can connect. I have it on my iPhone and they make it really easy to jump into the app and like do all the VPN stuff that it needs to do, and on all my other devices too. The reason I have it is so when I'm on a network that I have no control over or a network that I don't necessarily trust, I'm able to get that extra protection. Plus, I'm able to say I'm in a different location if I need to get around any geolocation stuff. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/connected. That is expressvpn.com/connected, and you can get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. That is expressvpn.com/connected. Our thanks to ExpressVPN for the support of this show and Relay. So, next week, iOS 18.1 is coming out, and the release candidate's out. And we mentioned it earlier, iOS 18.2 is now out, and my phone is very hot, but it is installed. So I have that there for if and when we want to get to that, because I've not even done anything with it yet, because I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't know where to go or what to start with, but maybe you can help me with that. But you wanted to know a little bit about how I have been using Apple Intelligence, I think?
Yeah.
So ask me what you want to know.
I don't know. I was just... because I think... You know, I've been talking to John about it, and he's had a completely different type of experience. And so I just wanted to know, like, is Apple Intelligence something that you use on a regular basis? Is Apple Intelligence something that if you went into settings and turned it off, is it something that you would miss immediately? Or like, what's your relationship with it? How much do you use it? Has it become something you rely upon? Or just is it still a gimmick? Like, I want to know, how you live with it, how you work with it.
Well, I think at this point there would be features that I would miss, and there would be features that I wouldn't. Like I could just go do something else. Like I could just use something else. So I think the features that I would miss would be summaries. And like these are summaries of various things. So I have come to really like the notification summary stuff. It is not perfect. Like, that's for sure, right? Like, there's some stuff that it summarizes where really the thing that is being summarized, like this app, probably shouldn't have summarization applied to it because it just doesn't make sense. Like, for example, I have an example, right? And I'm going to turn this off because it doesn't work for me. Like, I have notifications for Overcast. They just go into my notification center. So, like, I can see when new podcasts that I like have posted. And Overcast notifications have the episode description in them, right? Now, episode descriptions for two different podcasts merged together doesn't make sense because these are two incredibly different things. Like, for example, I have the episode description for today's episode of The Pen Addict that me and Brad made because I subscribe to my own shows to make sure they post. And then also the summary for the Stratechery Daily Update. And like one is about pens and pencils and one is about technology. So like when they are put together as if it's one source of data, they're so disparate from each other that it doesn't make sense to summarize it. Because what it does, so I will read this to you. Netflix's margin expansion highlights its business model differentiation. Ticonderoga October continues with pencil kit build-out. Like, one is about Netflix, the other is about Brad's pencil case. Now, like, together, that isn't helpful, right? But there are lots of things that are. Like, the best ones by far are, like, the HomeKit stuff, right? So, like, I get a notification from my front door is open and closed. And you know, prior to this feature in 0.1, I would just tap it and there'd be like a list of 20 things, right? Maybe during a day. But now I look at it and it's like multiple statuses have changed for the door. It was most recently closed. Like that is just like a good piece of information to get from the notifications. Like that is a better notification than door closed plus 20 more, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that there is a benefit to that. And similarly, like if somebody sends me a long Slack message, it summarizes it. That is helpful because I can get a sense of what the message is in one sentence. Like by and large, most of these things are good. Like I will say that there are a lot of viral ones. And even in that interview that I mentioned earlier with Joanna Stern and Craig Federighi, Joanna brought up there was like somebody who got a bunch of messages where they were broken up with. And it was like super stern, or it was like relationship is over, requesting stuff to be picked up or something like that. And Craig was like, and Craig did a great job answering this, I think. He was like, yeah, I mean, that is a bit like straightforward, but also it's not great to be broken up with by text anyway. So there's kind of no good way in which you're going to get that information. And I was like, that is a great answer. Because like, okay, the notifications got condensed, but you would have just seen a notification where it would have said, I'm sorry, but it's over. So like, is it really that much different? It's just like, that was the content of the message. But like, I do feel like getting some of these summaries can be really good. And like, I feel the same about, you get these for email summaries now too. So, there are two ways that you can get summaries of emails, and like seeing the in my inbox, right? You get a list of messages, and you can choose to have a summary of the message as the preview. A summary of the contents is better to me than just seeing "Hi, Myke, how are you?" over and over and over again from different messages, right? Like getting a message instead of seeing like the preview of like "Hi, Myke, how are you?" to be like, you know, this message includes details about the order and it has an invoice. Like that is just a better preview, right? Than the ways in which people would start an email. So I like that. I think that is good. I also like that a lot of marketing emails that I get, sometimes it'll be like talking about a new product line, it includes a 20% discount code. I'm like, well, that one's maybe interesting to me because I can see that there is stuff going on in this email. So I like that. And similarly, when you're in an email, you can press the button to summarize it for you. And for some email newsletters that I subscribe to, I will press that button to kind of get an overview of what is in the email to decide if I want to dig into any of the topics. Because I subscribe to some email newsletters where I don't feel the need to read everything. I think that is healthy. That like I'm not like I'm just going to read all of it. And before I would be like, if I don't have the time for this, I'm just going to have to get rid of it. But now, if I don't have the time, I can get a quick summary to see if maybe I do want to jump 2/3 down the email to read this one thing. So I like it for that too. So the summary stuff is my favorite, and like it. And if that was gone, I would miss it. That's kind of the only thing currently that I would significantly miss. So other things that I've tried the writing tools, like the writing tools that are built into the system. I find them good for proofreading. I like the condensing feature to kind of just make something shorter. But the best one I think is making a list of stuff. Like that's just helpful because making lists is annoying. Like if you have like a bunch of text and you want to turn it into a list, being able to say like press one button, make this a list, that's just like a great feature for a computer to do. And like computers don't do a good job of that. And like that, this is like a good thing for your computer to just be like, here's a list for you, right?
Right.
I find the tone of some of the rewriting stuff, like we'll like make this happy, make this serious, to just be way over the top. Like they need to dial that tone back. Like if I've ever tried to get a tone change on something, like I'm like, I write something out, I'm like, write this in a cheerful way or a professional way. I feel like they go way too extreme in that tone request. And like what I like about a tool like ChatGPT for this is you can specify yourself what that tone should be, right? So like you can say, write this in a such and such tone. And like one of the things that I like to do when I'm doing these tools is like keep my style of writing, but just make this better. And I find that to be pretty good. And this is where I feel tools like this are better. And I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they have actually made some tweaks like that for 0.2.
Yeah, it seems like you can now prompt the system to ask for more specific changes. This is something that I'm gonna try and understand how it works as we are doing the show now.
Writing tools. It says describe your change. So that's just up the top. So previously you would just use the buttons, and now you can just type in a prompt. So
here's a fun fact for
more.
you. Here's a fun fact for you.
Tell me.
I logged out of my Italian App Store account, logged in with my old existing US Apple ID. I can use Apple Intelligence.
Oh, God.
So I requested access to Image Playground, which is a separate queue, it seems.
Oh, right. Okay.
And Apple Intelligence is now downloading. That's what it says in settings. And I got writing tools in Notes.
I'm also signing into ChatGPT. Oh, look at this. This is what I wanted. You have an option to confirm ChatGPT requests.
Where do you get this?
So ChatGPT is in the Apple Intelligence settings. There is an option called Extend Apple Intelligence in Siri. It's like it's like halfway down the page.
I guess I don't have it because it's still downloading.
Yeah, and so you've got ChatGPT, and I get an option. Siri says confirm ChatGPT request, and it's turned on. So I will turn that off because I want it to get that information for me, and I've signed in anyway, so it will have my stuff. Because that's how you do this. Because also at the bottom of writing tools now, it says compose. And that is where you can just straight up whatever you want, right? Write me a message about this, So I can be like, oh, here we go. I'm going to do this in a group chat. Who is Federico Ticci? So I've just put that into writing tools in iOS, and it composes a message, which is working right now.
It's interesting. So I'm doing the setup for ChatGPT.
Yeah.
There's now a setup screen for ChatGPT, and you can say enable ChatGPT, or optionally, this is not highlighted by default. You can use ChatGPT with an account.
Yeah, I've signed in.
Huh. And to what benefit?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I do think that I think that they did say something about this, that there was some benefit to signing in. But I have an account, so I've just signed in anyway. Maybe it saves my questions. I don't know. But like now, I just sent this in our group thread. I just said, "Who is Federico Viticci?" And it just gave me a ChatGPT answer. Like that's just straight up composed from nothing, built in to basically anywhere in the system.
Okay, so can you describe with 2 truths and 1 lie?
Oh, interesting. What a way to describe that.
Myke Hurley.
I've never thought to ask an AI a question in that way. That's hilarious. To be like, give me 2 truths and a lie. That's fascinating.
No, unable to create content at this time.
Oh, no lies. They're not allowed lies.
No lies.
No lies. This might be because stuff's downloading for you.
Yeah, stuff is downloading.
I guess there's a big asterisk to all of this conversation, which I'll say to you and I'll say to the rest of the listeners, like it or I hate it, I'm using it, right? Like, I understand why people don't like it. I feel like I've made it very clear that I wished that Apple would have done things differently. I wish that all of these services would have done things differently. But considering these things exist, I am using them and I want to see what they can do for me. And I have found many ways in my professional life that these tools do help me. Like today, to try and dig through to get the answers on the DMA stuff, I was beginning my searches with ChatGPT and then going out to the links that it was providing because searching Google was terrible. Like any of these services that are attached to the internet are better search engines than Google. Like they just are. Like this is the case for Perplexity. This is the case for ChatGPT. I know how bad they are. Like I want them to pay the price for the copyright lawsuits. I want them to lose. I want them to have to pay because they have stolen stuff. But if we just ignore that for a second, these are better search engines than Google. I've not used Gemini. I'm sure like Gemini is as good, but I find it easier to get what I'm looking for by asking these services than by Googling it. Because Google, like a straight Google search, it's looking for the words I'm searching. But that isn't always going to get me the answer, right? Like having a level of understanding and interpreting and being able to do thousands of searches, right? However many searches it's doing, gets me the answers that I want. And so anyway, but I don't need to argue my point for now. Siri. I like the UI, right?
Right.
But that's kind of it. It's going off. I'm sorry. I knew that was going to happen because I was way too forceful in the way that I said that. The UI is nice, but like it's incredibly inconsistent and it's still pushing me to the web. Now, again, I am hoping that is about to change with 18.2 because I do believe some of the things that I ask, and it's like, I'm going to go to the web for you. If it just sent that question to ChatGPT, I would get the answer I wanted. And like my hope is now with 0.2, which again, we've not used in enough detail, that is going to be a significant change in the usefulness of this assistant. That you can ask it complex questions and it gives you an answer rather than saying, I searched this on the web for you. Like, I think that is going to be hugely beneficial, but I have to see how it goes. Something that is absolutely terrible is the smart replies in messages.
Okay.
I don't understand whose messages they look at to try and understand these replies because I have never once spoken the way that these messages want me to speak. Like, absolute psychotic behavior. Like, it's just bananas. Like, haha, comma, that's funny, exclamation mark. If I sent that message to anybody that knows me, they would think my phone had been stolen because I don't write like that. Like, I believe my theory on this is just a theory. My theory on this is that this is the exact same system as like the predictive replies before, but they've made it look like Apple Intelligence because I can tell zero difference. Like, and I feel like you have every message I've ever sent. Put it into an LLM. That would be great, right? Just put it into an LLM that's on device for me. You can basically just help me write my messages. It would make my own autocorrect better, right? Because it would be autocorrecting in the way that I speak. Like, that's what I hope they will do one day. Like, why not? I have given this device hundreds, I think 1 million iMessages, I think it says I've sent.
Millions of iMessages,
Like,
yeah, for sure.
That is, you have every way I would ever speak to someone. Like, that is the true smart reply. That's not just at that point. That's not just replying, like giving me options on how to reply. That is like straight up, you know what I would say to this question, right?
It's kind of scary if you think about it. Like, you
Sure.
know how to fake me if you wanted to.
Sure, but I think it's fine as long as I am able to decide to send it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
For sure, yes.
That you can give me a response to this. Like, you know me, so help me. Because currently, the smart replies, which it's already showing me, there's no point in them being there because they're of zero use. Like, the most I've ever done is tap one and then edit it, which is like, at this point, I may as well just written the answer myself. Mail's priority messages I don't find to be reliable or have any kind of discernible pattern as to what is considered to be a priority message. It just doesn't really seem to do anything. And then I think the last thing that I have used is the memory stuff in photos.
Mail just got the new design in 18.2, by the way.
Sick.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Now, that is an 18.2 thing, right?
18.2,
not just an Apple Intelligence thing. Yeah, look at that. Categories.
No, I don't know.
Mail categories. I've got primary.
Transactions, updates, and promotions. That's what I have.
No, I'm already confused by it, so I'm going to have to look. Because, for example, I have one message that is in both transactions and primary.
Sure, why not?
Now, and it even has a little transactions icon next to it. Now, why would it do that? Finds the messages that matter most. Oh, in primary and organize everything. I need to dig into that. But I'm excited about that feature in general because all email apps do this. Like, mail should do this. Like, I should not have to see receipts in my main inbox. You should know it's a receipt, put it somewhere else. I think that's great. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, looking ahead to 18.2, right, and beyond. So ChatGPT integration I'm excited about because I just want to see what that's all about. I'm intrigued about priority notifications, which I don't know if it's going to be in 0.2. Because I've been playing around with the reduce interruptions focus mode. I think it's interesting. I'm not using it fully yet because I'm waiting until I install all of this stuff on my Mac too, because I don't want to be on a focus mode that one device can't understand. Even though weirdly, one of my focus mode options on my Mac is reduce interruptions, even though I'm not running 0.1. It's it's doing its thing out there. But like, I think that could be interesting. And I feel like I've been using it on my Cortex brand iPad. I've had it on all the time. And I think it does do a decent job of surfacing some stuff. And so I'm intrigued to see how priority notifications works. I'm genuinely horrified about image playgrounds. Like, I've requested access and I have to wait. So there's probably going to have to be something we follow up on next week. I requested access immediately, but I don't have it yet. And so I'm going to keep opening and closing until the episode's done. We have visual intelligence, which I don't really understand what I'm supposed to do with this.
You're supposed to walk around and point at stuff.
I can, when I tap this, iPhone captures what's in view and sends the information to ChatGPT for information.
Visual intelligence with camera control. Learn about the objects and places around you and get even more information about what you see.
Okay, so there's 2 buttons. Oh, this is hilarious. So I just showed it my desk, which has a play date on it. And it says, this image features a desk setup of a Game Boy Advance SP.
For me, it searched for a poster that I have, and it said, I'm going to search with Google. And it provided Google search results to similar products. Or I'm going to take the picture again. I'm going to ask. And the ask button does nothing because I guess Apple Intelligence is still downloading on my device. Yeah. But I can use half the things and the other half just doesn't work.
Here's the thing. The fact that I can hold my phone up to anything and ask ChatGPT what it's looking at and then can follow up with questions, this could actually be pretty interesting.
I'm going to point my phone at your profile picture. Oh,
interesting.
I'm going to search. No, it's just finding pictures of computers.
Okay. Well, I've done it to you. I've just scanned my picture, and it says this is a digital profile picture of a man with curly hair and a beard, set against a
Cool.
warm colored background. The use of vibrant hues suggests an attempt to convey an approachable and friendly demeanor, possibly used in social media or communication platforms.
Do you feel like that's a good description
Yeah.
of what you're looking at?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it
And now
friendly and approachable?
I'm going to press the search image button, which does a reverse Google image search. No results. So,
Right.
we're doing our best over here. I think that the Google image search part is genuinely pointless. I think that they just didn't want this to be the ChatGPT phone. Like, what is the use of a reverse Google image search? Like, realistically, like, is that compelling of a thing? I don't think so. Like,
Well, to be fair, doing reverse Google image searches on mobile has always been kind of challenging.
okay,
So now, at the very least, now you have a quicker way to get to those. But yeah, I mean, if obviously the real value is in the proper explanation, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just like, here's some web results for you. So far, when I wanted to do Google image searches, I've been using the Google app on my phone.
Yeah, I guess it's Google Lens, really, isn't it? So I might be giving it a short shrift there, but at the moment, every time I've pressed the searching with Google button, it hasn't really gotten me much of what I'm looking for. Okay, I just put it at a candle I have on my desk, and it immediately gave me the candle. So okay, I can see some use for that. I see personally more use in the ChatGPT thing because you can kind of be like, hey, what am I looking at here? You know, like how you would use it on the Ray-Bans. But again, we need to spend more time with this.
Mhm.
I mean, the image playgrounds and I assume Gemoji is part of that. I don't have access to any of that yet, so we'll see. But what I'll say is like just looking at what they've added here, 18.2 is significantly more interesting than 18.1.
I would agree with that.
There is a lot more in here, and I think a lot of it is the ChatGPT stuff is unlocking a bunch of functionality. They should have. Look, I'm going to say it again. They should have waited. They should have waited until they could package this whole thing together, 0.1 and 0.2, and put that all out together. They should have waited.
The staged rollout, I feel like, and the whole strategy of pitching the new iPhones as built from the ground up with AI, it obviously comes from a place of maybe not fear is the right word, but it comes from a place of concern, right? Of being left behind compared to the rest of the industry.
Yeah.
Years from now, and maybe not even years from now, maybe even months from now, we'll look back and say, man, they should have just waited for like 18.1 and 18.2 together to tell a much more compelling story instead of rushing in out of the door with 18.1 and then following up quickly with 18.2. At the same time, I also think this slow drip of AI features, it works in their favor from a PR perspective, probably because they remain in the cycle.
That's a good point.
Of the news. Yep. So there are pros to that approach, I think. And I just wanted to say something, if you'll allow me, before we wrap up. Sort of a more of a...
Can I, because I know this is going to be a real good big point, I just want to say one last thing that I've noticed. This is, and I think is very smart UI. So now the emoji search field in the keyboard says describe an emoji, right? So you will start typing the emoji that you want and it will search the emoji that's there. Or if there's no result, it's like, would you like to create an emoji? That is clever. That is clever. Like
a British man.
Well, it's not going to let you do it because you got to
riding a motorbike.
Once you
create an emoji, create new emoji. Early access request.
Yeah, you gotta wait. I was like, Sandy, it's not gonna work yet. But I think that is very clever user experience design, I think, to combine those two things together. And there is also a specific button that you can press to just go straight into that mode. But I think that is going to be a way that a lot of people are going to discover that this feature exists. So I think that's cool. But anyway, take us home, Federico.
I just wanted to say something. I think a lot of people are under the impression that because I had opinions, so this is circling back to what we said toward the beginning of the show. Because I had opinions months ago, and I still do, about how the training data was used for AI, not just for Apple Intelligence, but for all kinds of other companies, that because of that opinion, I will bury my head under the sand for the next 5 years and never talk about AI. That is not my plan. That is not what I am going to do. I think people can hold multitudes of opinions. You
Yeah.
know, like you can think two things about something, about someone, and even though they are conflicting, you can still hold those two thoughts. And so,
Yep.
I think it was important for me to take a particular stance regarding training, regarding the danger of AI for creative people. I do believe, I still do believe there's real danger. We're seeing the stories every day. There's real danger to the idea of enabling a whole generation of kids and younger adults like us, to just generate content without the help of a professional. That's something that I think. At the same time, and again, that's one opinion. At the same time, I also think there's real value in using this technology with my data after my consent on my phone or on my iPad to say, this is the text that I wrote in notes, do something with it. This is something like App Intense, for example, coming out next year. These are the apps that I'm using. Use my data to train your model, right? And help me out here because I need to remember something that I don't remember. I think what we are witnessing is so unlike anything we have experienced as people who follow tech over the past 15 years, right? And to have one opinion and sort of have it become your brand forever is so dangerous right now, which is why I think, strap in because it's going to get weird, right? I'm going to have opinions about AI and then I'm going to use AI and it's all going to happen in the same bucket of a person, It's all going to happen together. And it's okay. I think it's okay. I genuinely think it's okay to believe something about AI and take advantage of the things that work for you. Because the other reality is, and this is where I'm going to wrap up, the reality is in the near future, this train ain't stopping. Like this is happening. Like this keeps going. Like like it or not, this is what's gonna happen realistically for the next few years. Does that mean I need to, just accept it? Shut up and accept the things I don't like? No. But it also means, do I want to become irrelevant? Do I want to become the kind of person who just, everybody else is writing about AI? I don't care. I'm going to be writing about wired earbuds forever. No, it doesn't mean that. It means now more than ever, because of this technology, we need people advocating for the ethics of AI, advocating for proper training practices. Now more than ever, we need opinions. And you got to play the game. That's how I'm going to sum it up. You got to play the game if you want to change the game.
I agree with you. Like I'm actually very happy to hear you say this. I don't think you would, I personally don't believe, and I won't be people that agree with this, but I don't believe that you would be able to make your point as effectively if you never use these things. Right? I think that, and I do believe that there is a path. I don't think anyone's going to take it, but there is a path to using these tools ethically, like creating these tools ethically. I thought Apple was going to be that company.
Right. Yeah.
But they weren't.
Yeah. I see this comment in the Discord that I think is interesting, and I want to address before we end the episode. Scary Music Boy, great username. I think vocally not talking about it is an incredibly powerful stance if you don't approve of it. Yes and no, because from if you look at this problem with the end goal being I want change or I want, such and such result, what is more effective? To say, oh yeah, Federico, it doesn't cover AI because he's politically against it? Or is it more effective if Federico tries AI and says, oh, look, X and Y company, I can create an image of a Nazi with your tool? Like, what is more effective to end up with a better product? Because clearly, as an individual, right, myself, or maybe somebody else like me, obviously, objectively almost, I would say, I don't have the power in my hands. I don't think nobody does, not even NKBHD does. I don't have the power to single-handedly stop the entire tech industry from shipping AI, right?
Yeah.
Nobody does.
If you don't talk about it, it will not change anything.
If I don't talk about it, it doesn't change anything. However, there is a small chance that if I do talk about it and complain about the things that don't work, maybe that will have an effect.
You're able to shift the course of the ship. You cannot drop the anchor.
Yeah. Like, look, individually, we're all pretty much powerless here.
Yeah.
Like, we're literally talking about corporations with trillions or hundreds of billions of dollars in cash reserves. Like, nobody cares about us from that point of view. So what are we going to do? Like, are we going to just sit in silent and switch to Linux? Become that person? We could do that. Some people have done it. The most Linux I can get in my life is the Steam Deck, personally. Or there's another way, and the other way is get your multiple opinions in order because you're gonna need them. So that's my take. I don't know. I'm a work in progress. Everybody's a work in progress, and that's fine. If you were expecting your favorite content creator to be a fully formed person, that's not the case.
I think realistically, I mean, I feel like I'm going back to the same conversation that we had when this began, which is that, like, no one's going to be happy here, and we just moving forward together.
Yeah.
You, listener, will have different opinions to us on this scenario. We just all look to try and give each other a little bit of grace, and we are all just trying to work our way through this new era of technology together. We've never been in something like this before. So here we are. We're all just, like, moving forward, doing whatever it is we're going to try and do. We're all just poking at the walls, whether they're tiny walls or big walls. Like, we're all just like, we're trying to work out what we're comfortable with. I don't think that people should be persecuted for those decisions. Like, using ChatGPT is not a crime. Maybe the way that the information was harvested was a crime, but, like, I'm not responsible for that crime. And maybe there's ethical stuff in there. Yeah, there is. We all have our own ethical lines of this. I just think that it's too difficult to paint with a broad brush, and that we're all just trying to work this out together. But next week we'll have more about it, and maybe some Macs too.
Yeah. By the way, I did try to request a description of Myke early, and it stopped at ChatGPT is requesting additional details. So
no, ChatGPT can't catch me.
ChatGPT doesn't want to describe you.
Or
maybe you're so unique you cannot be described.
Yep.
A description wouldn't hold the many facets of Myke Hurley.
Indeed.
So
thank you for listening to this week's episode of Connected. Thank you very much to our sponsors, ZocDoc, NetSuite, and ExpressVPN. Thank you for everybody who signs up for Connected Pro to get longer ad-free versions of the show every week. You can go to getconnectedpro.co to get that. If you have follow-up feedback or questions, you can go to connectedfeedback.com, and you can hit the link in your show notes to send us in some feedback, a question, or whatever for a future episode. If you want to find Federico online, he's on Mastodon. He's Ticci at macstories.net. And you could also find him over at macstories.net and on the many podcasts. I think just go to a podcast app and search Federico and just see what comes up. Maybe there'll be something new for you there. You can find me. I'm at iMyke, IMYKE. You can find me here on Relay and my work at cortexbrand.com. We'll be back next week. Until then, say goodbye, Federico.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.